Chris, are you feeling lucky today?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try this, my brother. Flip it in the air. Here we go. Heads or tails or the rim. Just the rim. Just the tails. No, sorry. You got that wrong. It was heads. That's all well. Look, let's go with the heads. Okay, I'm going to give you the coin. You take it. Got a marker here. Now, as a magician, you've handled Sharpie markers and marked a bunch of things. But if you were a layperson, I said, I bet you probably never marked, say, your first initial on the head side of a coin. I bet you've never done it. Kind of interesting. Look, take a Sharpie marker. Go ahead, put your initial. That's okay, just the cap one now. Put your initial on the coin. Yeah, sure. Now, pass it right to me, because I don't know if you know this, but if I'm going to get it. If you don't give it time to dry, I'm going to hold it up to the camera here. If you don't give it time to dry, you can actually rub off. Let's see if I'm going to get it all off here. Yeah, got most of it off here. You can actually rub off most of the ink on a coin, because coins are covered in stuff that makes them very hard for stuff to even stain or stick on them. But if I do it again, here, you take this. Take the quarter again. Put your initial on there again, buddy, okay?
On the head again?
Yeah, on the head. Just put your initial on there.
Okay.
Gonna ball up the napkin. Now give it 5 seconds to dry. Blow on it, yeah. Okay, you'll find now, if I rub the napkin against it, yeah, it's not coming off. It is permanently on there now. Okay. Hold on to the napkin tightly in your hand. Okay, full view. Okay. Now, how long have you had the name Chris?
All my life.
That's weird, huh? Weird. Okay. And again, because of the spelling, the C is kind of unique and distinct. But watch. Hold your fist out like this. The reason I had you mark this is because I wanted to make sure that that this was an absolutely unique item. You got a crumpled napkin in your hand. Watch carefully. I'm going to see if I can actually make the quarter travel from my hand into your hand. Go ahead, open up the paper napkin. This is my wipe-off principle. I first released this or shared this with the Magic Fraternity something like 35 years ago, whatever. One of my early books, I think it might have been in Sankey Panky. Yes, that was the title of an early book of mine. Anyway, I shared this idea, and it really caught the imagination of a lot of magicians sort of around the world, my early fans, a long time ago. Because this tries to, you basically get to create two of a one of a kind by doing this. Now, I've used this principle in other ways. I've even had people sign a card, wipe it off, their initial, wipe it off with a piece of flash paper, spark the flash paper while throwing it at the deck, and their initial reappears back on a card, the one card they were thinking of. That's a very powerful effect of mine I've been using for many years, and it flies every time. You know, this is the kind of trick that requires people to buy into one thing, right? And magicians often hesitate. I've shared this at lectures, and there's always at least a few guys that go, well, I'm not sure, do people? And lay people totally believe this, particularly this application when you have them mark a coin. Because a marker on a card, most people have done that, kids have done that, they know Sharpies are pretty permanent, okay? You gotta really keep, you gotta be really compelling, I think, and really believe in that yourself for people to buy into the playing card application. But for on the coin, having somebody mark a coin and seconds later use a paper napkin, and they can see the ink, they can see it's gone off the quarter, and they can see the ink on the paper napkin, that always flies. So here you have a situation, and I wanted to teach you the most basic trick you could do with this. Very strong trick nonetheless, great in a bar. You riff this in a bar, jaw dropper, very strong. But the applications are unlimited for where you could have this one-of-a-kind, only marked coin appear. It's all about how much effort you want to put into it, but you can have it reappear, and you could have it, you could bend it, you could do so many different kinds of things, because now you have two of them, right? So keep that in mind. Let's drop in and take a look at the principle and the very simple handling. I think you're going to like it. So for this, you're going to need 2 coins, 2 matching coins, and a Sharpie marker. I got a jumbo here, no surprise. Of course, Sankey's got a jumbo, and a paper napkin. And what I have is a button here. I just have a button, and the reason I have the button is because I'm going to, any object that isn't going to hold the ink, this button has a clear plastic sort of coating on it. So I know I can take a bunch of ink, kind of put it on there like that, take the napkin, and if I don't wait too long here, I should be able to, let's see here. Yeah, okay, there we go. Get a bunch of the ink to come right off onto the napkin. So that's my prep. So this, this is kind of a big napkin. This really does work better with a cocktail napkin. Because with a cocktail napkin, of course, they're a lot smaller. They're pretty much half the size of this napkin. Okay, but for now, let's use this. Okay, got a larger napkin here. And what I've been able to do is get the ink that I need off this slick surface. Get rid of that, I'm ready. And I'm gonna basically have this either sitting on a chair nearby. If I'm in a bar, I could have that sitting by the chair nearby. And what I want is I want for it to be head side, or we'll do tail side up. I want it tail side, okay? Want the tail side against the ink. So I got the tail side against the ink, and this can be either sitting in my lap, or it can be sitting on a bar stool nearby, or probably the best way, and again, this works better with a smaller napkin, is to have this folded, have this and the quarter behind it, and this is down in my pocket, okay? And if you push it, right the way down the pocket, then that means that the quarter and the napkin are stay closely together. The next step is borrowing a quarter and having it marked. Now, you can use your own coin, of course. There's some real virtue to that because you can know it's a perfect match, right? Or you can borrow. What I like to do is get a handful of change out, do a few different coin tricks with a handful of change, and rig my own coins, get a handful of coins out, do some tricks, and rig it so I have a perfect match among the change that I have, right? And then say, actually, let's try something with this. This looks like an ordinary quarter. Take a look at it. They take a look at it, make sure it's ordinary. And then I can go, you're feeling lucky, heads or tails, and go into it from there. And I say, go ahead, mark the coin. And they mark the coin. I say, just put your first initial on it, okay? And while they're putting the first initial on, I openly put my hand in my pocket and I take out the napkin, okay? And because I have the coin in the napkin against the ink, now I have it hidden behind that I'm all set to do spellbound. Let's say they put the initial is I. Okay, as in I hate my name. Okay, they do that, and I will still have had this in my hand, and I tell them right off the bat if we don't let it dry, and I take it, and now I'm ready, like I said, for spellbound, because the visuals of coming over here, rubbing the ink off and showing it off, that is so convincing. This sells the idea, that sells the idea, and all I did was Vernon's spellbound move, which is I have the marked coin here, and I'm going to let the coin fall down like this. The coin is going to fall down. I just move my thumb. The coin's going to fall down like that. Okay, and it's going to happen when I come over here and I leave the mark, or I'm going to leave the duplicate coin right where the other coin was and rub. Perfect motivation. They see the ink apparently comes off, but I keep moving. I don't pause there and go like that. I say, notice that if we don't give it time to dry, I can get most of the ink off, almost all of it. And I always say most or almost all of it, even though there's no ink left here, okay? I get most of it or almost all of it off like that. Then I immediately put this back down the table and say, but, and I say, if you put your initial, and I try not to say, if you put your initial again, or if you sign it a second time, I try to say, but if you put your initial on it, go ahead, you'll see. And now he puts his initial back on it like this, he does his eye like that again. I say, now if we give it time to dry, we count to 5 if you blow on it. And while everyone's doing that, I just take the napkin here. I'll say, now if you blow on it, and I can put the napkin directly on top of the first initialed coin, okay? Can put the marker away. They're letting that dry like this, blowing on it, whatever. Now I can either open this, wrap it around the coin inside here to really make it buried, or just crumple it around it. But let's say in this case, I wrap it around, crumple it up. I'm done with this. This is totally natural action. Take the coin from them and say, actually, here, hold on to this. They hold on to this, okay? And they'll never feel the coin inside. Or you could take this and put it under a coffee cup, or you could take the napkin and put it inside a wine glass. I love using wine glasses. Beautiful theater to isolate, but also raise so all can see, okay? But let's assume they're holding on to their hand. So, wow, am I in a crazy position? They're holding on to their marked coin inside the napkin, and I have it here, okay? Now, I always like to plant a time lapse here for a few reasons. If they've written this a little more distinctly the second time or whatever, I want to make sure there's a time delay here. So I'll take the coin here and casually hold it in my hand and gesture with it, whatever. Saying we're going to try something. You could talk about molecules. You could take a lighter out and heat this up. Saying I'm going to make the molecules a little softer. You could do a false coin bend. All that stuff you can do down here, okay? False coin bend, or you can pretend to heat it up with a lighter, whatever. Plant a time lapse. And then finally you're going to make it vanish. Now, lots of ways to do this. You could even use the old woofle dust. I'm going to use some invisible magic dust. And so in this case, what you do is you do a straight vanish. You do a false transfer. Go to your pocket, right? You could bring out the magic marker even, saying, look, I'm going to try to see if I can make the ink vanish from the coin. See if I can get the ink to vanish here, even though we gave it time to dry. And wait a second, I think I just made the coin vanish. I mean, that's nice, and it justifies you going to the pocket. So, or you can go to your pocket, pretend to get invisible dust, whatever. That way you get a full vanish. The coin is gone. Now, please, as I always say on this channel, if you've been in magic 10 years, you think, okay, coin vanish, let's get to the real magic. No. This vanish can be real magic. This vanish deserves to be, don't do anything unless you're going to give it its due. So it vanishes, boom, like that. And then to finish, take your time and really enjoy this absolutely shocking coin trick where they've held this. I mean, they saw you handling their marked coin long after they were holding this in their hand. Now they open up and they find, and you don't even open up, they open it up and they find it possibly inside their own marked coin. There's a friend of mine that for years was always saying, I've got to start exercising. I've got to start exercising. He, like a lot of us, had a couple extra pounds and he was always talking about exercising, but he never got to this. And this was many years ago. And the other day I was talking with him, and what's really cool is a couple of years ago he started. He did it. And rather than it fading away, a week went by, then another week, then a month, then a year. Now it's been a couple of years, and now he's not addicted to it, but it's now integrated into who he is, into his life. And I mention that because, and you'll find this in a lot of, with music and with magic, and I'm sure with a lot of other art forms, the only way for you to really, really get good, really good, and I don't mean really good in comparison to other people, because that's frankly bullshit. I mean, become your version of good, you good, is by practicing. You need a live performance. Magic is an interactive art form, but you need to come to love to practice. And some people, I from a very early age, I loved it. I just sort of made that connection between the practice and people's praise and the responses. And for a young guy with a whole bunch of emotional needs, it was a click. However, my friend is another case in point about, it's about sticking with it until it becomes, if not super pleasurable, just at least a habit. You need to come to love to practice, to need to practice. I don't practice as much as I used to, that's for sure. I used to practice for hours every single day, long before I had a house and kids and all that stuff. And I still keep it up for sure, and performing helps and all that stuff, and I warm up my hands. But you need to go through a period where you love to practice. And the best thing to do is just to start and stick with it. And I promise you, some of you already love to practice, but the others who wish they liked to, if you just, how do you get there? It's a bit of a paradox because you get there by doing more of it. Well, how do you push yourself to do more of it if you don't already like it, right? But maybe that's something you can set for your goal in the new year is to practice. Maybe, 15 minutes a day. I bet you can find 15, not 20, not an hour. Classic setup, huh? Could do an hour every day, and of course, too much life comes in. 15 minutes.